stars be with you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Energetic Principles Weekly Forecast for the week of October 28th through Sunday, November 3rd. And before we get started here, just as a friendly reminder that this general astrology reading is for the collective. So if you're looking for more personalized information, come on over to energeticprinciples.com where you can book a personal consultation and we can look at your configuration in more depth. All right, friends. Well, there is a lot going on this week, and I have labeled this week Transformation Begins. And that's because all the personal planets are having a say this week. And not only that, but we have a new moon in Scorpio. So we have Mars themes going on, a big Mars theme going on. We have Venus themes going on. We have a lot of Mercury. I like to see who is the prevalent planet for the week. And it was really hard to pick a winner here because there is a lot going on with everybody. And of course, a new moon, this is a new chapter that's starting within a lunation cycle. And so we have this chapter, this scorpionic chapter that is blooming. Now, Mars is making its opposition to Pluto, which I've been talking about for quite some time now. But this week is the week where we get the exact opposition. We also have Venus lighting up the Jupiter-Saturn square, and that is a big theme for 2024 as well as 2025. So Venus, our relationship planet, our sense of values, our sense of worth, our aesthetics, and our appearance, this is caught in the middle of those changes between Jupiter and Saturn. So we'll dive into that some more. And Mercury is making all the moves. So when Mercury makes moves, that means all the information comes in. We have important conversations, our minds are honed into something that is part of just the developing story. And so when we have information, there tends to be some sort of movement happening. And of course, that new moon. All right, so let's take a look at the chart and see what's going on. So here we have Monday on the 28th. We have that Virgo moon, and Venus is making a square to Saturn, and Mars is making a trine to Neptune. And so with this trine to Neptune, Mars will then leave and go to oppose Pluto, and Venus is going to square Saturn and then move to oppose Jupiter. So we can't think of them as one-stop transits. It is a developing story that is going on. So when we think about Mars and Neptune together, so this is our creative drive. These are our spiritual motivations where we may be taking compassionate action or have to have compassion with ourselves or other people. And ultimately, there is the high side of having enlightened movement at this time, which, sometimes can be difficult when we feel this pressure that's brewing between Mars and Pluto. We know that things are intense and things need to change, but how do we let go into that and move forward in a way that has that greater spiritual story in mind, and also is able to let certain aspects of our ego dissolve into compassion. And with Venus squaring Saturn, that is not always the best for relationships, right? Because there's tests of commitments, there's blockages of pleasure, and there can be these issues around sincerity with other people and whether or not, we feel like we are getting the best out of a relationship or what other people's motives are, right? When people relate, what is the underlying agenda there, So there can also be this feeling of just social pretense where we are wrapped up in, how we come off to the world or just the social constructs. And Venus in Sagittarius is trying to break free from that, right? She wants to be free. She wants to be liberated. She wants to do what she wants to do. But there is this Saturn heaviness of feeling, that's an interesting part about being at one with all that is and all the people is that, we can feel just how the structure of society is set up, and it can feel like we're not free to express ourselves or be ourselves in a particular way. Another thing with Venus squaring Saturn at this time is that we can, we can feel like we're stuck in a particular connection, or we're stuck in a way of appearing to the world and to other people, and sort of this gilded cage energy, which I'm going to touch on a little later in the broadcast here. So put that in your pocket for later. But sometimes we're trapped in something that is seemingly good, but is that really facilitating our growth, or what it is that we actually desire? So let's put a pin in that and carry on here. So on Tuesday, we have that moon in Libra, which is going to emphasize Venus themes even more, right? So some of the things that I was talking about with social pressures or social dynamics or aesthetic dynamics will start to come up. But Venus, she's moving from that square to Saturn to the opposition with Jupiter. So it's almost like Venus hits the limitation first, but then how do we think of ways to open that up further? And so I'm believing that, the moon conjunct that south node on Tuesday will help us drop some of that energy that's been draining us about Venusian issues, so that we can open up to new ideas. And keep in mind, both Jupiter and Saturn are retrograde. So as we feel the structures or the heaviness or the container around our Venusian story, and then how that grows, how that expands, what we believe about that. These are all internalized processes right now to be acted out once we come to terms with what those archetypes look like within and how we want to shift them. So Mercury over here is getting very close to an opposition with Uranus. So Mercury this week is going to oppose Uranus, trine Neptune, trine Mars. So there's going to be this Mercury, Mars, Neptune, grand water trine. Sextile Pluto at the very end of Capricorn, and then move into Sagittarius. So Mercury has this energy of, Mercury in Scorpio is still in its investigative mode. So it's looking deeply into things, and there can be extremes that it's focused on. It might be questioning, it can be revealing and pulling layers off of, peeling layers back from especially more psychological matter. And so it wants to get to the bottom, right? And so Mercury is getting the bottom of things this week. But it's doing so through these fixed emotional narratives. So the first stop is this opposition with Uranus. And so this is sort of like a wake-up call to the mind, right? And usually it comes outside of us when we're talking about opposition. So wherever Taurus is in your chart, and Scorpio both, there is going to this push-pull tension of sort of this breakthrough. But breakthroughs are not necessarily always so easy to get through. Something has to jar us, something has to awaken us in order for the mind, especially in a fixed state, to be like, okay, I see a new perspective, or I want to evolve here. So prepare for maybe some shocking news, or just some, changes to the plan, or just this need for flexibility from a mental standpoint, right? Because then Mercury will go on to trine, what planets are they? What planets are they, Mel? Trine Mars and Neptune here later in the week on Thursday. And so we're getting really close to this new moon, right? And so the new moon happens on Friday the 1st. Let me just double check I got my trusty honeycomb planner here, which I can always recommend to people if you want to keep abreast of the planets. Yes, Friday, at 8:47 Eastern time, we'll have that new moon. But so Mercury is going through all this processing right before we have a potent new moon, right? So think about the spiritual dynamic of this Mercury, Mars, Neptune trine going on. Because Mercury and Mars together is like when the mind and the motivations are in the same page, but now we got Neptune tied in. And so we are in this more spiritual state. We're in this flow with a more, soul searching and being attuned to our soul's journey and what it is that we need to move forward and feel good about moving forward from an evolutionary standpoint, from a heart-centered standpoint, from a relational standpoint, because, water has a lot to do with connection. And so this can be a time where we are having compassionate conversations or are able to share our feelings, and they might be rather intense. And there might be grief behind that, or some sort of loss, or, some sort of dissolving or breaking away, especially with the end of a lunation cycle. There could be sort of this goodbye energy going on. So keep in mind that we're going to be in probably a pretty emotional place on Thursday as we are connecting with the theme of transformation beginning, right? Because we can't transform unless we are willing to leave some things behind. So let us go to our new moon in Scorpio here. And so here we have November 1st, we have this new moon at 9 degrees and 35 minutes of Scorpio. But what is also very important here is on this same day, we see Mars opposing Pluto, and we have that Venus opposing Jupiter. So we have a lot of relational dynamics, right? Scorpio is known as a relationship sign. Libra has more of that social connection and more of that sort of detached, idealistic sense of partnership and fairness and equality. But Scorpio is like that down and dirty side of relationship, whether we're talking about intimacy or, the pangs of love, such as, certain like jealousies or just deep loyalties, and how we share resources with other people, whether that is our body. We share our resource of our body, right? That essentially is one level of intimacy. It's not the only level. But we share, we give up a little bit of power when we share, credit lines with other people, or able to collaborate in a way that it has power dynamics to it. So Scorpio has many layers to it. But on a different side, we are talking about, Scorpio has a lot to do with healing what, the still waters that accumulate over time. So there's this sense, especially with Mars ruling this lunation and opposing Pluto. And keep in mind, I'm going to do an actual longer video about this, so this will be brief. But there is this beginning of healing, especially around if we are holding resentments that we have accumulated over time, or we have hurts, or we've been betrayed. This is facing that pain. It's facing that need for this purification process with our anger or our motivations or how we want to move forward in life. And we can't stay here, right? Mars is confronted with Pluto. And so there's this fiery phoenix-like energy that is rising. But when you think of a phoenix, right, it's not every day that it transforms, but when it does, it literally burns itself up. And it is not a pleasant experience. Like, the fire rises inside, and to be, succumb to the ashes so that you can be reborn anew can be sometimes a painful experience. And one of the things that I want to bring up once again is that, not once again in this video, but from prior videos, is now we have Jupiter making its second sextile to Chiron here. And this happened around the time of the eclipses and the Aries full moon. And I had spoke before where we're in this place of we're learning from our wounds, and how certain thoughts and ideas may hinder our progress or our ability to take action in life because we have this narrative that keeps us locked in. But now we have Jupiter who's gone retrograde since that time. And so we're coming back to this ability, this opportunity to really work with, from a mental standpoint, of what that wounding or that pain or that poison looks like, and how we can make sense of it in a way that we can choose to move past it. And so one of the things I think is really potent here is that the last pass of this is going to be May 18th of next year. So it's like the work that we're doing now in October, in the beginning of November, is going to have some sort of resolve in spring around May. And there's a lot of planetary themes that are moving and changing around that time next year. So keep in mind, what is that storyline now? What are you moving through? What are, how are you taking a beginner's mind around persistent pains or wounds that are not allowing you to heal and move on? Because this is an opportunity to do that, right? And this is really Mars and Pluto coming into the mix, because this is the first of this opposition and the only one that's going to happen in Cancer and Capricorn, which are security oriented signs. These are signs also that are very connected with family and upbringing, love, conditional love and unconditional love. And so there might be themes around sort of parenting dynamics, whether like literal parenting dynamics or just kind of what we were taught and where we come from and how that motivates us or holds us back in some way, and where we have insecurities, but where we need to muster this strength and maybe be a little more stoic in nature in order to move past certain emotions that aren't really facilitating our best life. So this opening opening theme, I guess we could say, is going to play out again in January 2nd, and April 26th, but those will be in Leo and Aquarius. So this is really especially at 29 degrees, like this can really bring up something in your Cancer and Capricorn houses that is ready to move on. So really do, get in there and do the work this week. Now, I will say that just for a reminder, Sunday, at least here in the United States, well, not all of the United States, but most of the United States, we will have daylight savings time. So we will be falling back 1 hour, which is good. So sleep in, get your, get that rest. And we're probably going to need it, because this is going to be an intense week that has a lot going on to it. Because when there's that many planets at play, we can expect to be busy. We can expect a lot of interpersonal dynamics, a lot of conversations, a lot of maybe switches to the plan, a lot of need for flexibility, but also at the same time, that deep dive into our emotional selves that is setting up for this healing journey that is going to take more time than just this week. So let us go ahead and talk about some ways that we can work with this energy, right? When there's so much going on, how do you work with it? So the first thing I'm going to bring up is to look at your security motivations. Okay, so this can, especially when we think about money or greater financial comfort, that might start to come in and be the focus. But at what cost to your freedom is that, right? So this is where I want to bring back that idea of the gilded cage. Because when we have these certain comforts in life and we've created our special little garden, but beyond the wall, we see something that is, a path that leads us to an expanded horizon, to new experiences and to the unknown, which can be absolutely scary. But it can be exciting and thrilling too, right? Venus in Sagittarius, she is desiring the adventure and the unknown right now. And so we might need to revise what our values look like to make sure that our actions are aligned with our values. So a wonderful activity this week would be to get a piece of paper and write down everything it is that you value most out of your life right now. And then cut that down to a solid 6. So you can be really conscious of what it is that is important to you. Because if it's important to you to make some headway and to have some new experiences, but and that's outweighing having X amount in your bank account or being tied to this particular commitment that brings in some sort of money, I'm just throwing ideas here, then that's going to take precedence, right? Then you'll have to sort of leave the garden so that you can go on that journey. This could also be in another way if you're looking at your security motivations, what is holding you back, and that keeps you away from money or building your security, because sometimes we're insecure in a way that then doesn't allow us to get what it is that we deserve in our life. So the flip side of the coin could be to look at it that way. So it just depends on, where you're at this particular time. And maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe there is that need to step out of our comfort zone so that we can actually draw in more money and security. And we think we're secure with the little piece that we have. But if we open up, then we're going to have more. But we have to get over our fear of not being in control or, what can lurk in the unknown. Now, the other way to work with the energy this week is to open up to the journey of our deeper emotions, right? If you're a Scorpio energy person like me, Scorpio rising, or have Scorpio planets, then you're no stranger to diving deep with oneself. But some people are not equipped to go down that road. Not to say that they can't, it's just not as easy. And it does take more conscious effort to be able to look at our stuff, to look at our shadows, to want to heal things that might cause us pain or be, deeply rooted in some way. And so this is a wonderful week to look at where there's a shutdown in your emotional life or where there are complicated connections going on with other people. Because we need to make peace with the fact that moving through those is actually part of the journey. So we don't want to skip steps. We want to be focused on essentially doing the work. And sometimes doing the work, it requires movement. It requires maybe taking a trip of some sort, or taking a class, or having a temporary retreat from a situation so that you have time to ingest it and really come to terms with yourself with how you feel about something, what it is that you want to change. Because sometimes a change of scenery, whether it's in the physical or the mental world, can really be what's needed to fully process. So look at, address those deeper feelings this week and go on a journey with them and create some movement around where those difficulties might be. All right, friends. Well, once again, if you would like to book a personal consultation to look further into your astrology, that is what I'm here for. Come on down to energeticprinciples.com, and there are a variety of different consultations that you can book. You can also sign up for my monthly newsletter, The Heavenly Wind, which is about to go out here at the beginning of November. So keep a lookout for that. And if you're on YouTube, leave a comment below, like and subscribe, share this with a friend, spread the good word. I just reached over 1,000 subscribers, which is exciting. It hovered at $9.99 for a few days, and I was like, come on, someone put me over the edge. And someone did, and it feels good. So I'm on this journey, this vulnerable journey on YouTube. So if you can share, that would be wonderful. And also, if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, leave a review wherever you listen. So I know some people have been curious about when I might return or at least dabble in my old format with bringing on guests. And I can promise you there will be some guests that will join me in further episodes. But right now I'm trying out this solo thing in the meantime. And I will say that Greg Crawford is going to join me for the year ahead here shortly. So definitely keep a lookout for that, because it'll be our 5th year doing it. And that's going to be a lot of fun because there's so much to talk about for 2025. So get ready. All right. Well, let your transformation begin. This is a week to make some moves that are all about deep and lasting change. So I hope you're on board with it. I know that I am. So take care out there. And as always, may the stars be with you.